somebody were to walk into your room, what would they see, hear, experience, etc.?
Okay, well, I have to preface this by one of my favorite quotations, which is learning is messy. So I would always try to make sure that people understand that true learning really is messy. I mean, I could get everybody lined up in nice, neat rows and have them quietly take notes, but that's not how I would like my classes to work. So usually what happens, if you come in, it could look a little chaotic. It could look really chaotic, actually.
Yeah.
There are times when that chaos is not really good. Most of the times it's good chaos. It's learning messy chaos, and I'm good with that. Usually give large deep dive projects, and we'll spend weeks on something. So let's say we meet 3 to 4 times a week, 45 to 50-minute periods. So a project, depending on what grade it's in, could last 3 or 4 weeks. And everybody, we give a little bit of an intro. I like to give them enough an introduction to whatever platform we're using so they can kind of navigate their way around.
Mm-hmm.
And I show them the first bits. And then I say, now here's your goal. You have to create this, something, a game, a mini game, a whatever. Go. And then they go. Everybody at that point is kind of at a different stage in their learning. And I encourage people to help other people. So that creates more messy learning chaos, but that's okay. My only rule with helping people is you're not allowed to touch their keyboard or their mouse or their robot.
Mm-hmm.
You can help, but you can point, you can't take over. And we talk about why that is and how you learn and how we don't want to circumvent their learning. And there's just questions all the time. I do believe in just-in-time learning.
Mm-hmm.
I think we might have talked about that before.
Yep.
So, for instance, take a concept like variables. I mean, you can give a lesson on variables and say, well, a variable is and go through it, and they give you some examples, and they do some exercises with variables and stuff. But at the end of that, my experience with most middle schoolers, and maybe most people, is they'd say, I get it. So what? I mean, what?
Right.
I mean, I'll jump through the hoops. Okay. Because I want to get a good grade or whatever. But so what? I would rather say, okay, for your Scratch game, you have to have 2 working variables like lives, health, score, time, levels, whatever. You learn about variables and you solve for X. My thought when I was in middle school was, who cares what X is equal to? I mean, really? But now it's like lives equals 10. Oh,
right.
And then I say, so that's a variable. And so they want to learn it because they want to say, oh, but I want to make it so that when the cheese puff hits the buffalo 10 times, I go to the next level. And I say, well, now you need what they call a variable. And here's how you do it. And so they're ready. They want to learn it right then. They need to learn it right then. And so that, to me, that's the engaging, that's what you can get, doing it this way. I'm not against some front loading, and I will do it if it seems like it's necessary. If they're just not getting it, and some people do prefer to have it explained ahead of time, and I can do that as well. I do provide support materials, like I have a YouTube channel for some Scratch videos, and I always have handouts and things like that. So they're not left just stumbling around. But I think that the engagement comes when they need to learn that particular concept. That's the strike while the iron is hot moment.
Yeah, there's a professor that I had at ASU named James Paul G. He writes a lot about like discourse analysis and video games and learning, and then something called situated learning. And so one of the things he talks about is like when you're playing a video game, you typically don't get the manual right up front and read through it A to Z and then start playing the game. What happens is, in most video games, is you'll start playing and you have some kind of a short-term objective, like get out of the room that you're in. So you need to figure out how to move, but you don't need to figure out how to cast spells or to throw buckets or whatever it is that you're going to do in the game. But as you keep progressing into the next areas, then you have this new thing that you need to learn, and you slowly keep adding upon that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he has some really good points about situated learning. He's got several books on it. If people are interested in it, check it out. But a lot of educators feel this need to like front load, and that's basically like, okay, I'm going to read the entire manual before I actually learn how to walk or how to jump in the video game itself. And it's just not necessary.
I didn't know there was a term for it. That's pretty cool. I'm going to write that down. Situated learning. It'll make it sound really smart when I talk about it later. And I think that's true for so many things. But I think as adults, we like to categorize and all of that. That's really why I have this great quotation. My hero is Seymour Papert, who's passed on. But I have this quotation up on my board, and he says, "The role of the teacher is to create the conditions for invention rather than provide ready-made knowledge." And I guess if I had to have, that's my mantra, that would be it right there. So I try to create in my room, you talk about what's it going to look like. Well, I'm trying to every day create the conditions for invention rather than provide ready-made knowledge. And that's hopefully what it looks like. And hopefully the kids are engaged and interested. And that's usually the case. I would say 90% of the kids, 90% of the time come in excited, sit down, and jump right into what they're doing. And that to me means, okay, I think we're getting there.